have no other prayer to make, and you don't know what words to say, those are enough. Have your way in me. Last week we had an amazing guest speaker, Joanne Adams. She opened up our eyes about motherhood. Yeah, she was amazing. She talked about something in that talk that I wanted to just go into a little bit deeper today. She said gratitude is the gateway to grace. And I want to talk about what grace is, because we all have different ideas of what grace is. We know the song for sure. We buy the mugs and we embroider it on doilies and things, and we love grace. Talk about God's grace. But when you're pressed to define it, it might be difficult. I have a definition that I found that I think is fantastic. It says, grace is the activity of God that prevents us from reaping all that we sow. Now, you're laughing because some of you are like wildfire sowers. I know, that's why. Here we are. Thank you. Thank goodness we don't reap all that we sow. Grace is almost like this intervention of God in the law of karma that says, oh, I know you're thinking a bad thought, and we know that thoughts create things, but you know what? I don't want you to create that, so I'm going to stand in front of it. This is called grace. You just take it right back. So grace is that amazing thing. And Eric Butterworth, who's a great Unity author, says you do not have to earn grace. It's not something that comes only to the good. It comes to all alike simply because all alike are expressions of God, which we say every single Sunday. There is nothing you could possibly ever do in this world that would make God love you more. There is nothing you could possibly ever do in this world to make God love you less. God's love exists for you, period. And that's why grace is for everyone. Knowing how to live with an awareness of that grace, knowing how to live that we take responsibility for our thoughts, but thank God, thank grace that I'm not getting everything back that I send out into the world. It can change your life. I'm going to ask one of our longtime former interns, Margie Hyatt, who is now on staff as part of our ministerial staff. She's going to explain a little bit more about that. This is a truly auspicious day, too, because it's not only her opportunity to share her wisdom and love, but it's her birthday.
Thank you, Scott. 39, yet again. I wanted to speak to you about gratitude and hook on to Joanne's intro to grace and gratitude together to you this week, because I believe they are powerful spiritual game changers. And we bump up against moments in life when we need to change where we are. Let's figure out what we're talking about first relative to gratitude, as Sky set us up for grace. In my research, I found this gentleman, Dr. Robert Emmons, University of California at Davis. He actually researches the impact of gratitude on our lives to create happiness and contentment. He says, first, gratitude is an affirmation, what a lovely Unity word, an affirmation of goodness in the world. And second, gratitude requires the recognition that the sources of this goodness exist outside of individuals. So if I am practicing gratitude, it means I'm not only looking at what's in the within of my life, but I'm looking outward to see where the blessings in my life exist beyond this little experience I'm having here on my own, because God reminds me from time to time that it isn't all about me. It's out there where the richness of life is. Charles Fillmore, our Unity co-founder, spoke of gratitude in this way: Thanksgiving will keep the heart fresh, for true thanksgiving may be likened to rain falling upon ready soil, refreshing it and increasing its productiveness. What a valuable thing to think about relative to the power we can exert in our own lives, that we have the capacity to step into new all the time, that we have the capacity to lift ourselves into a higher space of productivity in our lives. And one of the ways to do that is to say, Thank you, God. Thank you to another. Thank you for bringing your energy into this space today to help create this experience we're all having. Our friend Albert Einstein said, when the solution is simple, God is answering. The beauty about the universal design is it is simple. I remind myself of that all the time when I'm the one making a mess in my life, because God operates in what the mathematician and the physicist would call the elegant solution. The simple, easy way to conduct life is God's invitation for us through this set of universal principles, through a set of spiritual game-changing tools. Now, a decade ago, my husband died. And in that moment, I learned two things right away. One, I became aware that this whole experience was about my choice. I could live in the belief of love continuing, or I could live in my grief. The second thing that came to me very quickly was, although I held to my belief, I was a mess. Grief will do that to you, as will many interesting and traumatic life circumstances leave us in a mess. And how we respond to that is the game-changing energy of shifting from, in this case, my awareness of loss to my awareness that love existed around me still in every moment. From my awareness of sadness to choosing joy because there were still rich blessings present in my life all the time. But this is a choice I had to make in order to move forward. So I asked myself a question. What's the smallest step I can take to change the game? To move energy in different directions, to be focused outward on what's great and grand still in my life, instead of the mess that was scattered on the floor, the pieces of my life that were all jumbled. It's to find the simple things that pay big dividends in our lives, change the direction we're facing, and change the direction we're moving in the face of big circumstances in our life. So at about this time, I think it might have been on an Oprah show, I caught the idea of a gratitude list. You know, as I would go to bed tonight, write down 5 things in that day that I was aware of with gratefulness, that I was thankful for. My cat was usually number 1 on that list. Things that brought me joy, that I paid attention to in that day. The simple practice asked me to focus on the good that was present in every moment of my life. So, you know me, went to the bookstore and bought a pretty little book to keep my journal in. You can do that, but, you know, if you're not a pretty little book kind of person, maybe you're a physicist like my husband, you go to Long's Drug and for $1.89, you get a composition book, right? But if you're artful or crafty, maybe you want to decorate up that composition book into something that's meaningful and carries the power of imagery that serves you. Oh, a little too complicated for me. How about you go to your computer and you make a simple list that has a few titles, little reminders of affirmations maybe, something you can carry in your purse, tuck in your wallet or pocket if you make it small enough, so that it travels with you during the day. Carrying this intention to be in the practice of gratefulness as you move through life. Who's got a smartphone in the room? You know there's an app for gratitude. So there is no reason, there's some mechanism, some method for all of us to be using the powerful practice of shifting our life energy to a new spot, something for everyone that we can do to put this practice into our life. Every night, 5 simple things that I noticed during the day, and before very long, I was connected to the joy. I was connected to the love. Rather than the absence, I was connected to my own presence in my life, and I was connected to the presence of God in every moment. Simple thing, big dividends. Here's what's necessary. Charles might have called this the universal principle of Nike. Just do it. Just do it. Start and engage, practice, make a choice, and shift the energy in your life. Why does this work? According to Charles Fillmore, he would reference the law of expansion. We know the adages for this law. What we put our attention on grows. What we nurture blooms. Where we focus expands in our life. Very simple and very profound. Martha Smock was part of our Silent Unity ministry a number of years ago, and she had this to say about gratitude. Words of praise, gratitude, or thanksgiving expand, set free, and in every way radiate energy. Now, I think our Sunday services are a perfect roadmap of spiritual game-changing tools. And one of them comes right at the front after the music when Sky says and invites us every week to know the truth that God and the good are present everywhere in the universe and right here in my life. When we connect with that energy here in us, collectively in this room, we radiate that energy through our own lives beyond the limitations of just this experience I'm having here, but we radiate it out in the world. When we carry an attitude of gratitude, every interaction with another becomes a moment of possible blessing. Rich, simple, and profound. There are many researched benefits to the practice of gratitude. It increases our well-being, affects things like our level of alertness and enthusiasm, our sense of determination, our optimism, and that energy moving everywhere in the world. Gratitude can impact your physical well-being. It actually measurably improves a thing called heart rate variability, which is important to cardiac health. It enhances our immune system. It alleviates stress, anxiety, and depression. So if any of these have some interest in your life, just do it. Find a way that works for you and just practice the power of choosing to live in gratitude every day, and you can change almost every aspect of your life. It strengthens relationships, and it eases a sense of loss. That was particularly important to me. But there was one research project in the aftermath of the 9/11 event that showed that people who practiced gratitude, who put their focus on things they were thankful for in the midst of that tragedy, they were more available to process their own emotions healthfully. They were more available to be compassionate friends to those around them also affected. It was a spiritual game changer for those people who connected to this power. And again, optimism and energy. Now, it's one thing to move this energy in our own life, but what if we could spread it beyond in ripples of grace and gratitude, moving to the circle of people we influence, our friends, our family? Poke your neighbor, the person sitting next to you in the pew. How can we radiate the energy of God's love, joy, harmony, and peace from us, where we cultivate it, nurture it, and expand it? How can we shift it outward so that we are having an impact in the world? Simple. As James said, we don't usually text in church, but for purposes of illustration. I've had a practice going with one friend by email for a couple of months now. We email one another every morning the things we're grateful for. From that, I took a list of people from my phone, and I have them right here, ready to go, and I want them to know that today I am grateful for these three things: that I live my life with passion. I'm grateful for celebrations of love and joy, and especially I'm grateful for their presence in my life. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Press send. And there are phones ringing on the mainland. Right now, people who are watching live stream, a bunch more who may be not watching. There might even be phones going off in this room.
Thank you, God.
It's so simple, yet it's profound. And the invitation is, if you send your gratitude outward to a list of friends by whatever mechanism, you are sending that wave of energy, because the invitation is for them to do the same. Pick another list of friends as well as respond back to you and move it outward in the world. So that's changing my life. It's maybe changing your life.
Absolutely.
Good. But what if you don't text? Maybe you don't have a smartphone, or maybe it's still smarter than you, which is often my experience. There are lots of ways to get this done. You and your computer can create a gratitude practice every day. I think there are people who still use paper and pen in our culture. You could send a postcard or write a letter. Do you know that I still have thank you notes from people decades ago in my life because they took a moment to tell me the ways in which I touched them? So when you do that for others, you are creating an effervescent expression of joy that not only occurs in that moment like bubbles of champagne, but it carries forward to influence and affect them for perhaps years to come. And there's also, I think people still have landlines. You could, reach out and touch someone in that way. Take a moment and have a shared practice with a person on the phone, much like a prayer partner, to share those moments. And somebody pointed out, I forgot one of the most obvious ways in our culture, in fact, around the world, to send out your gratitude in viral waves. What did I forget? Facebook. Of course. If you're not on Facebook, this is a good reason to join, to sign up and have a positive impact in the world beyond. But can we really touch the whole world? Can we make ripples of gratitude literally around the globe? A woman named Jackie Lewis believes that's so and is possible. And she created something called the World Gratitude Project. Here's a woman who thinks big with game-changing ideas. Her website, gratitude.crowdmap.com, that's the picture on your left, is an interactive map that blinks constantly, lighting up when people have gone to the site and are posting something they're grateful for in that moment. Around the globe, they can post what they have gratitude about. They can read what other people are posting and support that energy, and they can literally circle the globe. We all have that capacity. And her website, myresilience.net, has lots of information about creating within your life ways to move in gratitude and resilience, spiritual game changers for your use. I recommend it. When we decide to take a practice, center it in our life, move it outward in ripples of joy and love and harmony, indeed, we have the capacity to change the world. It begins with the change that we choose in our own heart, to feel the presence of God in us so that it may expand, bloom, and grow with every grateful heart. I invite you in this moment to think of one thing that you are deeply grateful for, or one thing that brings you incredible joy, to center in that thought, to join me in taking in a breath. so that we can take this idea into our heart and into the silence with God.